Good morning. Continuation of disorder of adrenal gland in that hyperfunction of adrenal gland that includes pheochromocytoma and hyperaldosteronism. So hyperfunction of adrenal gland includes pheochromocytoma and hyperaldosteronism. If hypersecretion or hyperfunction of adrenal medulla will result in pheochromocytoma. If increased secretion or hypersecretion of mineralocorticoids, that is aldosterone from the adrenal cortex, will result in hyperaldosteronism. So coming to the pheochromocytoma. So pheochromocytoma will be taught under these headings, that is definition of pheochromocytoma, etiology, epidemiology, pathology, clinical feature, investigation and treatment of pheochromocytoma. So by definition, pheochromocytoma and paragangliomas. These are the neuroendocrine tumors producing catecholamines that derive from sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system. These pheochromocytomas are 90% benign. Rest 10% are malignant in nature. Pheochromocytoma is originated either from adrenal gland or from the extra-adrenal site. So 75 to 90% are from the adrenal gland itself, that is adrenal medulla. So which secretes both epinephrine as well as non-epinephrine. Extra-adrenal sites, that is 10 to 25%. These originate from the sympathetic chain from carotid body or to the pelvic region, that is abdomen and mediastinum. These sites secretes only norepinephrine. So come to the etiology and pathogenesis of this pheochromocytoma and paragangliomas. So both are well vascularized tumors arise from sympathetic, that is adrenal medulla, or parasympathetic, that is from carotid body or glomus vagale paraganglia. So pheochromocytomas are sympathetic catecholamine producing tumor, including those in the extra adrenal site, that is from retroperitoneal or pelvic or from thoracic sites. Paragangliomas are catecholamines producing tumors in the skull base and neck, as well as tumor arising from the parasympathetic system, which secretes little or no catecholamines. For all practical purpose, term pheochromocytoma are restricted to adrenal gland and its disease, whereas term paraganglioma restrict to tumor from other than the adrenal gland, that is from the extra adrenal sites. So if you take the etiology of pheochromocytoma, that is sporadic cases, that is scattered cases of etiology is unknown. So exact cause for is not known. So about 25% of the patients have inherited condition, that is including germ cell mutation in RET gene, that is rearranged during transfection, VHL gene, Van Hippel-Lindau gene, NF1 gene, neurofibromatous 1, STHB, STHC, SDHD gene, that is succinate dehydrogenase B, C and genes. So come to the epidemiological feature of this pheochromocytoma. If you take the incidence 2 to 8 patients per million of person every year. So 0.1% of hypertensive patients harbor a pheochromocytoma. If you take the age of incidence occurs at any age, peak will be 3rd to 5th decade. So mean age of diagnosis around 40 years. If you take the sex, equally occurs in both male as well as female. So this pheochromocytoma is also called 10% tumor, that is rule of 10. So 10% is bilateral, 10% is extraordinal, 10% is malignant, 10% not associated hypertension, 10% in children. So if you take the pathology of this pheochromocytoma, so gross pathology, look, well circumference lesion. Inside that there is a hemorrhagic and necrotic area you can see. So if you take the microscopic, that is histopathological feature, there is a nest of polygonal chromaffin cells. So these chromaffin cells synthesize and store the catecholamines. When there is a stress, these catecholamines are released from that and they will act according to that. So coming to the clinical feature of pheochromocytoma. So majority of this pheochromocytoma may be asymptomatic also without any symptoms. If it is symptomatic, so general features are sweating, flushing, heat intolerance, pallor, weakness and pyrexia. So neurological manifestations are headache, tremor, visual disturbance, anxiety, panic attack, seizure. Cardiovascular manifestations are hypertension, palpitation, chest tightness, dyspnea and faint. So gastrointestinal symptoms are abdomen pain, nausea, weight loss and constipations. So if you take the percentage wise, so 60 to 90% are presented with a headache, 50 to 70% will be palpitation and sweating. Say about 40 to 50% will have a pallor, nausea, flushing, weight loss, tiredness, psychological symptoms. About 50 to 60% will be sustained hypertension, 30% will be paroxysmal hypertension, 10 to 15% will have a orthostatic hypotension, whereas 40% will have a hyperglycemia. So this pheochromocytoma is present as classical triad, that is episode of headache, palpitation and profuse sweating. If all these three symptoms along with hypertension, you always suspect there is a pheochromocytoma. So dominant sign of this pheochromocytoma will be the hypertension, which is labile hypertension or episodic or fluctuating BP. Sometimes it will be normal, sometimes it will be increased, sometimes it will be low, like that. So keep on fluctuating hypertension, that is called labile hypertension, is a feature of pheochromocytoma. When there is a catecholamine crisis, that is, so catecholamine crisis means when there is a large quantity of hormones are released. In that situation, patient will present as a heart failure, pulmonary edema, arrhythmia and intracranial hemorrhage during the episode of hormone release, so which is episodic. So patient will have present as a pale, anxious and experience a tachycardia and palpitation. So these episodes will be last for an hour. So these episodes can precipitated by surgery, positional changes, exercise, pregnancy, urination, cheese and alcohol intake, and various medications like tricyclic antidepressant, beta blockers, histamine, and opioids. I already told, so majority of this pheochromocytoma are asymptomatic for many years. So what are the precipitating factors? So patient will be quite normal. Suddenly they will have a catecholamine crisis or paroxysmal crisis. In that, what might precipitate? So exercise, general anesthesia induction, labor during stress or following IV contrast agent, or those who are taking tricyclic antidepressant. These things will precipitate this pheochromocytoma episodic events. So coming to investigations. So first is you have to demonstrate excess or increased catecholamines in the blood with help of biochemical test. Then to know exact site where catecholamines are secreting, that is localization of tumor with help of imaging studies. So biochemical test includes urinary test and blood test. Urinary test are 24 hours urinary vanil mandelic acid, 24 hours urinary catecholamines, 24 hours urinary metanephrine, that includes both fractionated as well as total metanephrine. Plasma test, that is blood test, includes catecholamine estimation, free metanephrine, chromograin A. So imaging studies includes CT of adrenal gland, MRI of adrenal gland, and SPECT scan, single photon emission computed tomography, that is MIG scintigraphy, somatostatin receptors scintigraphy, or DOPA PET scan, positron emission tomography. So that biochemical tests mainly includes measurement of catecholamines in the either in the plasma or in the urine. So that catecholamines includes non-epinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine. So these are usually elevated in pheochromocytoma. So measurement of plasma as well as urinary level of catecholamines and metanephrine, that is total and fractionated, are the cornerstone of diagnosis of pheochromocytoma. In that measurement of urinary metanephrine and catecholamines, that is total metanephrine and fractionated metanephrine, are widely available, so commonly used for initial evaluation. In that measurement of urinary fractionated metanephrines and catecholamines are more sensitive compared to the plasma catecholamine estimation. These catecholamines and metanephrines are measured in a different method. One is high performance liquid chromatography, and the second one is ELISA, that is enzyme linked immunoabsorbent assay. Third one is liquid chromatography or mass spectrography. So when you suspect pheochromocytoma means the values are 3 times the upper limit of the normal, whether it's catecholamine or metanephrine. When there is a value will be more than 3 times of the normal, then you diagnose pheochromocytoma. So metanephrine measurements. What are these metanephrines? So metanephrines are O-methylation of catecholamines, which is catalyzed by catechol O methyl transferase, that is COMT enzyme. So O-methylation of norepinephrine will result in normetanephrine. O-methylation of epinephrine will result in metanephrine. So combination of this metanephrine and normetanephrine is metanephrines. So measurement of plasma concentration of metanephrine is more sensitive in tumor detection than the measurement in rise in plasma catecholamines, which is a paroxysmal, means fluctuating. So catecholamines are fluctuating whereas metanephrine level is constant. So measurement of metanephrine in urine is actually more sensitive in the diagnosis of pheochromocytoma. So what is VMA? Urinary VMA level estimation, that is vanil mandelic acid. So these are primary metabolites of catecholamines. These will be synthesized, will require a deamination of catecholamine or their metabolites by the enzyme monoamine oxidase. These not only occur in the adrenal medulla and also from the extra-adrenal side, also from sympathetic nervous system. That's why these are low sensitivity, that is less than 65%, but high specificity, may up to 99%. So imaging study includes MRI, preferable study, CT scan, not much useful, but you can use to detect the tumor. SPECT, that is single photon emission computerized tomography. So this is the picture of a MRI of abdomen showing a large adrenal mass over the left kidney as blue arrow mark is showed. So this is the picture of CT abdomen showed a mass lesion in the right adrenal gland as a white arrow mark showed. So this is the picture of CT abdomen following IV contrast showing a right adrenal mass is enhances brightly. After IV contrast, that mass lesion is enhancement is you can see. So SPECT scan, that is single photon emission computerized tomograph. Here is iodine 131 or iodine 123 MIBG scintigraphy, that is meta iodo benzyl guanidine. So with the help of this we can localize almost 90% of primary tumor and also helps multiple extra adrenal tumors or even metastasis also. So what are the differential diagnoses of this pheochromocytoma? One is essential hypertension, anxiety attacks, use of cocaine or amphetamine, mastocytosis or carcinoid syndrome, intracranial lesions, clonidine withdrawal, autonomic epilepsy, factitious crisis. So usually from use of sympathetic amines. So coming to the treatment of pheochromocytoma, either surgical line of treatment or medical line of treatment. So surgical line of treatment includes resection of mass is the treatment of choice. Here is you can use minimally invasive technique, laparoscopy or retroperitoneoscopy. So become the standard approach of pheochromocytoma surgery. So medical line of treatment is used for preoperative preparation, those who are not responding to surgical line of treatment or surgery is contraindicated. In that situation, this medical line of treatment is used. So, and also management of hypertensive crisis. So drugs includes alpha blockers, beta blockers and other like calcium channel blocker and ACE inhibitor. Alpha blockers include phenoxybenzamine and prozosine. So beta blockers includes propranolol. So alpha blockers, that is phenoxybenzamine, starts as a 10 milligram orally twice daily, increase up to 20 to 40 milligram orally twice daily until you get a desired effect. Started 70 to 14 days before surgery. So to say adequate alpha blockade, it requires 10 to 14 days. So adverse effects are postural hypotension, tachycardia, dizziness and nasal congestion and miosis. You can also use oral prozosine or IV phentolamine mainly to manage a paroxysmal event, that is episodic event or catechalman crisis. So before doing surgery, BP should be below 160/90 with moderate orthostasis. So beta blockers can add if patient has tachycardia or arrhythmia is persist. So drugs that commonly is propranolol 10 milligram TID or QID per day depending upon the effect response you can titrate. So beta blocker should be started in low dose after adequate alpha blockade. If you not given adequate alpha blockade, if you give beta blocker, suddenly there will be a paradoxical increase in the PP that result in there is a complication associated with pheochromocytoma. That's why first you have to give adequate blockade followed by start beta blockers. So other antihypertensive drugs that is commonly used, calcium channel blocker, ACE inhibitor, mainly to control the BP. So during the surgery, that is intraoperative and post-operative period. So because I already told blood pressure is liable, so label during surgery, so particularly during the onset of intubation and when there is a malnutriting tumor. In that situation, you use nitroprusside infusion to control the blood pressure or hypertensive crisis. So what are the complications of this pheochromocytoma? One is cardiac arrhythmia, dilated cardiomyopathy, heart failure, pulmonary edema, hypertension, encephalopathy, stroke, death, all because of sudden surge in the blood pressure will result in the cardiac as well as neurovascular manifestation. So coming to the malignant pheochromocytoma, usually 5 to 10% of the pheochromocytoma are malignant. Diagnosis is very difficult. So when you suspect this malignant pheochromocytoma means tumor with a distant metastasis to lung, bone or liver, suggesting that there is a vascular spread. So more common in hereditary cases. So treatment option is again chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So chemotherapy are multiple drugs that is used, dacarbazine, cyclophosphamide and vincristine. So you should give every 21 days for 3 to 6 cycles. So radiotherapy is iodine 131 mIpg in 200 microcurie doses at monthly interval or 3 to 6 cycles. So if you take the prognosis, 5-year survival rate is 30 to 60%. Coming to the pheochromocytoma associated syndromes. So about 25 to 30% of the patient of pheochromocytoma will have associated with inherited syndrome, that is neurofibromatosis type 1, multiple endocrine neoplasia 2A 2B and Van Hippel-Linde syndrome. So neurofibromatosis type 1, usually there is change in NF1 gene. This usually occurs 1% of the patient of pheochromocytoma. Classical feature will be multiple neurofibromas, Kefauver spots, axillary freckling of skin, least nodules of iris. Men 2A and 2B, these are autosomal dominant disorder. Both the types caused by mutation in red gene. In men 2A, usually associated syndromes are medullary thyroid carcinoma, pheochromocytoma and hyperparathyroidism. Men 2B will be medullary carcinoma of thyroid, pheochromocytoma, multiple mucosal neuromas, morphonoid habitus. This pheochromocytoma is seen in 50% of the patient in men 2. Third one is Van Hippel-Linde syndrome. This is autosomal dominant disorder predisposed to retinal and cerebellar hemangioblastomas, also predisposed to renal cell carcinoma, pancreatic islet cell tumor, endolymphatic sac tumor of inner ear. This VHL also with mutation of VHL gene. So about 20 to 30% of patients with VHL syndrome will have a pheochromocytoma. So coming to the hyperaldosteronism, by definition, hyperaldosteronism is a condition in which there is a excessive circulating aldosterone level in the body, secreted neither from the adrenal gland or from the extra-adrenal site. As you know already, aldosterone is a hormone that controls mainly sodium retention and excretion of potassium level in the. If overproduction of leads to the retention of salt and loss of potassium, which leads to the hypertension. So what are the type of hyperaldosteronism? So primary hyperaldosteronism and secondary hyperaldosteronism. Primary hyperaldosteronism also called Cowens disease, in that there is a type 1 primary, type 2 primary. So primary hyperaldosteronism, otherwise called Cowens disease, here is there is excessive production of aldosteronism within the adrenal gland, whereas secondary is excessive production of aldosterone from the outside of adrenal gland. That stimulus will be the extraadrenal site, that is RAS syndrome. Coming to the primary aldosteronism, usually affect the adults between 30 to 50 years of age group, more common in females compared to the males. If you take the race, African American are greater risk of fatality from the disease, very rarely seen in children, more likely have been inherited if diagnosed in children. So if you take the etiology or causes for primary hyperaldosteronism, so most common cause is non-cancerous tumor of adrenal gland, that is adrenal adenoma, usually unilateral. About 20% of the cases will have a bilateral adrenal hyperplasia. Here is there is an enlargement of organ caused by increase in the reproduction rate of cells. So very rarely will be adriform, that is autosomal dominant form. So coming to the clinical feature of primary hyperaldosteronism, there is an increased aldosterone leads to the sodium retention, loss of potassium and hydrogen ions that result in hypertension. So expand the fluid volume as well as sodium retention. Usually this hypertension will be moderate. Majority will have a diastolic hypertension. Because of increase in blood pressure, patient will have a headache. Because of loss of potassium, that is hypokalemia, patient will present a muscle weakness, cramps, intermittent paralysis. Due to inability to concentrating the urine, patient will have a polyuria, polydipsia, nocturia. So in this condition, edema is usually absent. So investigation includes routine, that is complete blood count, RBS, urine examination, usually alkaline. There is an increased potassium level in urine. Serum electrolytes, sodium will be increased, potassium will be decreased. So hydrogen ions is decreased. There is a metabolic alkalosis, and there is an increased plasma as well as urine aldosterone level. But here is the decreased plasma renin activity. An ECG shows there is a LVH because of hypertension and signs of hypokalemia. So biochemical test, that is screening technique, includes assess the potassium level, I already told, and assess the aldosterone level to the plasma renin activity ratio. If it is this ratio is more than 30, think there is a primary aldosteronism. So imaging studies, that is MRI and CT scan, mainly distinguish between whether this disease is bilateral or unilateral. So Cowens adenoma usually measures 1 to 2 centimeter. So very important test is selective adrenal vein catheterization. Here you have to take the samples from the vena cava or both the adrenal vein. So measure the aldosterone to cortisol ratio, that is ACR ratio. Usually determine the from these samples. If the ACR difference is one side, indicate there is a unilateral disease. So come to the treatment of primary hyperaldosteronism. Here also includes surgery and medical line of treatment. Surgical line of treatment includes unilateral laparoscopic adrenalectomy. So remove the whatever the adrenal adenoma. So in typical Cowens adenoma, usually there will be a subtotal resection commonly indicated. So medical treatments indicated in preoperative preparation, bilateral disease and those not a candidate for surgery. So medical line of treatment includes drugs, that is spironolactone, so aldosterone antagonist, dose is 12.5 to 550 milligram BID, may increase up to the 200 milligram. So eplerenone is a selective mineralocorticoid antagonist, also used. Dose is 25 milligram BID, can treated up to 200 milligram per day. So amiloride, another useful drug, is act as a sodium channel blocker. Dose is 5 to 10 milligram BID. For uncontrolled hypertension, you require say 2 or more drugs. So according to that, you have to start. So come to the secondary hyperaldosteronism. Here is there is a excessive aldosterone secretion in response to the activation of renin angiotensin system. So here is aldosterone is not secreted from the adrenal gland. It's from the extra adrenal side, that is activation of ROS system. So coming to the etiology or causes of secondary hyperaldosteronism. So condition that increases the renin production, injection of oral contraceptive, pregnancy, and condition like congestive heart failure, liver failure, kidney disease, dehydration, or certain medication like diuretics or fludrocortisone. So all these condition increase the renin, that result in there is a increase aldosterone secretion, result in secondary hyperaldosteronism. So many of the cases of secondary aldosteronism, they have never be detected. So etiology is exactly not known. This is the ROS system. When there is a fall in the blood pressure, there is a will be stimulate the secretion of renin from the kidney. Once this renin is secreted from the kidney, converts the angiotensinogen to angiotensin. This angiotensin 1 is converted into angiotensin 2 with help of enzyme ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme. Once angiotensin 2 is secreted, is act on the adrenal gland, that is adrenal cortex, will secrete the or stimulate the adrenal cortex to secrete the aldosterone. Once this aldosterone is released, will cause a retention of sodium, will result in increase in the blood pressure. Or angiotensin 2 itself acts the vascular, will cause the increase in blood pressure. So symptoms of secondary hyperaldosteronism almost similar to the primary hyperaldosteronism. So moderate hypertension or high blood pressure, you can see. Most of the individual have no other specific symptoms, but some patient may present as a muscle weakness, cramping, headache, low potassium level, tingling, muscle spasm, fatigue, and very important thing, there is edema is present. Unlike where primary hyperaldosteronism edema is absent, secondary hyperaldosteronism edema is present. So diagnosis includes demonstration of elevated aldosterone levels in either in the blood or in the urine. Most important test is plasma renin activity. Usually distinguish between the primary and secondary hyperaldosteronism. If plasma renin activity is low, you think of there is a primary aldosteronism. If there is a increase in plasma renin activity, think there is a secondary hyperaldosteronism. So if you take the treatment of secondary hyperaldosteronism, mainly treat the underlying cause. So medicines and diets are used to treat the secondary hyperaldosteronism. There is no surgical treatment. If you untreat hyperaldosteronism, can lead to uncontrolled hypertension, and complication related to the hypertension you can see in. So these are the questions. So you have to answer within 3 days and mail to the department email. Thank you.